Delivery of summonses call to the military registration and enlistment officers sent into war. Mobilization in Russia, which is allegedly completed, continues. To remind that on October 28, Russian Minister of Defense Sergei Shoigu announced the end of the so-called partial mobilization. According to him, 300,000 people were drafted, 82,000 were sent to the front, and problems with supplies and payments were allegedly resolved, and everything could be fine, but there is no presidential decree to end the mobilization.
Despite the Kremlin's statements about the completion of the mobilization, it should be noted that it has been transferred to a covert regime. Publicity and indicative measures have been curtailed. But along with this, the military registration and enlistment officers were instructed to continue the search and recruitment of volunteers who would express a desire to conclude a contract for participation in the so-called special military operation.
The Russian military commissars did not refuse to mobilize those who, according to official instructions, should not fall under the conscription ring. They are taken into the army with hepatitis, HIV, strabismus, a brain tumor, as well as drug and alcohol addiction.
I didn't even think that I would be mobilized. I have a bright biography. I was involved in 6 criminal articles: theft, manslaughter, beatings and death threats. Yes, he also has an alcohol addiction. He can't do without a bottle at all. Recently he went on leave and started drinking. As a result, he disappeared for a week. He was even put on the wanted list in the military unit. He was returned. Andrei Arkhipov and his wife Diana in a command for Siberia Realities.
Not a hindrance to mobilization and mental disorders. 31-year-old Semyon Lezhanin from Tyumen was called up after a month of treatment in the regional psychiatric hospital. He was admitted to the hospital with a suspicion of severe depression, but during treatment the man was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia.
He is registered in the dispensary with the psychiatrist. How can one with such a diagnosis, paranoid schizophrenia, be sent to fight? I just do not understand. In this case, the category of validity D is put on the military ID. It exempts from conscription and from military duty in general. After that, I wrote statements to the Military Registration and Enlistment Office, and to the Prosecutor's Office, and to the public reception of the Ministry of Defense. Silence. Vera Lezhanina, mother of the mobilized Semyon Lezhanin, in a command for Siberia Realities.
To compensate for losses at the front, the Russian authorities decided to mobilize the prisoners as well. Putin signed amendments to the law that allow the recruitment of people with a criminal record for serious crimes – murder, robbery, drug trafficking and so on. Only those who were convicted on charges of pedophilia as well as on terrorist and extremist articles will not be called up. This will make it possible to replenish the army with hundreds of thousands of probationers or recently released from the colonies of citizens who were previously forbidden to serve in the army. The latest decree concerns the expansion of the status of military personnel to members of volunteer formations, as well as benefits for those mobilized.
Such decrees likely indicate that Putin is preparing to continue covert mobilization in Russia by attempting to incentivize volunteer service or setting conditions to mobilize convicts. Given that he has yet to sign an order terminating mobilization as of November 4th. Provisions authorizing the mobilization of prisoners may also indicate that Putin is trying to preempt social tensions by setting conditions to mobilize convicts instead of civilian Russian men, from the report of the American Institute for the Study of War.
Probably the Russian authorities decided to use the period before the new year as an emotional relief for the population, and then to replace covert mobilization, a full-fledged second wave of conscription for war in Ukraine may come.
The war continues and is not going to end, and the people who were recruited will run out at some point. It will be necessary to supply new people, new meat for the war.
Lola Tagaeva, citing sources from the top leadership of Russia and big business, claims that work continues inside the country to eliminate errors and modernize military registration and enlistment officers. Therefore, the conclusions are obvious. Mobilization will continue. Until the end of December, a draft campaign for military service will be going on in Russia, and therefore a new wave of mobilization may begin as early as January. Reported by Serhiy Kulyas, Valeria Nekipelova, UATV News.